We've all seen those terrible stock photos of pharmacists, right? Usually it's just someone grinning vacantly next to a random bottle of pills. Well, today we are digging into a source document that completely fixes that. It's a highly specific visual branding blueprint. So if you've ever wondered how the pros craft those hyper-engaging, cinematic images, the ones that just instantly scream authority, you are in exactly the right place. We're looking at a creative prompt, literally a recipe for generating a compelling, professional image perfectly tailored for the clinical pharmacy space. Get ready, because we're going to break down the anatomy of this image layer by layer.
What it really looks like. I want to start right there with this exact phrase pulled directly from our source material. This isn't just some catchy tagline. It's honestly the entire driving philosophy behind this visual strategy. Because let's face it, there's often this massive gap between the public's perception of a profession and the day-to-day reality of it. When people hear pharmacy, they kind of just picture a retail counter. But clinical pharmacy, it's deeply integrated, it's fast-paced, and it's intensely patient-focused. This branding strategy is entirely built around bridging that gap. It visually proves to the viewer exactly what the reality of this high-level role actually looks like.
So what is this clinical pharmacy visual branding strategy? Basically, it's a dense, highly curated set of creative instructions. You can think of it like a cinematic blueprint. It's specifically designed to just completely bypass those sterile, generic, and frankly, boring stock images that are everywhere right now. Instead, it uses incredibly precise parameters to communicate true professional authenticity. We are going to treat this concise text prompt as our master guide to totally mastering visual strategy.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer. 1. The branding blueprint. 2. Setting the clinical scene. 3. The confident pharmacist. And 4. Typography and color strategy. Let's dive right in. Section 1. The branding blueprint. Decoding the AI parameters. So, our source gives us some very strict technical specifications right off the bat. We've got a resolution of 1280 by 720 pixels, an instruction for no text, an aspect ratio command of 16:9, and finally, style raw. Now that style raw prompt is often used to stop the AI from over-stylizing or putting weird filters on the image, keeping things really grounded. But that no text constraint, that is absolutely crucial. By telling the generator to completely omit text in the base layer, you're guaranteeing a perfectly clean photographic slate. You definitely don't want garbled, weird AI-generated letters messing up your composition, right? You want absolute control so you can add your own crisp typography later on.
And that 16:9 ratio? That is absolutely not a random choice. It's the undisputed cinematic standard. But more importantly, it's the exact dimension required for YouTube thumbnails. The source material actually explicitly calls this a cinematic YouTube thumbnail background. This tells us right away that this image isn't just meant to look pretty in a vacuum. It's highly functional. It's designed specifically to capture attention and drive clicks on a video platform.
Moving right along to Section 2, setting the clinical scene, the environment. The source material instructs us to construct the mood sequentially using 3 key elements. First up, warm clinical lighting. We're not talking about a harsh fluorescent glare here, but lighting that feels inviting, yet totally accurate. Second, an authentic documentary style. This is vital. A documentary style implies truth, right? It implies we're like a fly on the wall, observing real, important work happening, rather than just looking at a posed, cheesy photo shoot. And third, a professional and purposeful mood. Basically, every single element in the frame has to serve a purpose. Zero wasted space. Just listen to the sensory language used in the source here. Hospital beds and monitors softly blurred in background. I really want you to paint that mental picture. It perfectly anchors the scene in a high-stakes medical environment, but without distracting from the main subject. The viewer instantly registers the location, a busy hospital ward, but their eye isn't caught up on the harsh, technical details of the medical equipment. And look at how this builds such a compelling visual dynamic. We've got this sharp contrast between our active foreground and our softly blurred background. Up front, a focused expression, reviewing a medication chart. In the back, those hospital beds and monitors. This depth of field strategy, it's a classic cinematic technique. It quite literally forces the viewer's eye exactly where you want it, right on to the expertise and the action happening in the front, while the background just subconsciously validates the setting. It's brilliant.
All right, Section 3, the confident pharmacist, the human element.
The source outlines highly specific physical attributes to portray this person. We need a clean white coat, literally the universal symbol of medical authority. They need to be standing on a busy hospital ward corridor, which immediately adds a sense of urgency and shows active integration into the care team. They're reviewing a patient medication chart, catching them mid-action, doing the vital cognitive work of clinical pharmacy.
And crucially, they have a focused expression. This is absolutely not someone smiling vacantly for the camera. This is an expert intensely absorbed in patient care. The blueprint also gives us secondary framing instructions to project undeniable authority. Quote, your face, confident, arms crossed, in smart professional attire. Now, a confident arms crossed posture is your classic power pose. Combined with smart professional attire underneath that crisp white coat, it signals absolute competence, readiness, and trustworthiness to literally anyone who happens to scroll past that thumbnail. Let's bring it home with Section 4, Typography and Color Strategy, the graphic layer. The source material dictates exactly what text to add after generating the image. It's mapped out perfectly. Line 1 reads, Clinical Pharmacy, in a crisp white. Line 2 reads, What it really looks like, utilizing a teal accent color. By breaking the text across 2 lines with 2 distinct colors, it creates an instant visual hierarchy.
And hey, the choice of typography here is absolutely not accidental. The blueprint specifically calls for the font Montserrat Extra Bold. Why that one? Well, because typography acts as the ultimate anchor for the branding. Montserrat Extra Bold is a geometric sans serif font. It's highly legible, incredibly modern, and it carries a ton of visual weight. When you place it over a softly blurred, complex hospital background, a bold font like this just cuts right through all the noise. It ensures the message is read instantly, even if you're looking at it on a tiny mobile screen.
Looking at the overall color palette, the source calls for a background accent of deep navy or hospital blue. So our dominant palette is that deep, trustworthy navy, contrasted sharply with the crisp white text, and then energized by these little pops of teal. This isn't just about making things look nice either. In color psychology, blue represents trust, stability, and health. The teal adds a modern, clinical, yet really vibrant energy to the mix. The whole thing creates a completely cohesive, highly professional brand identity from top to bottom.
Bringing all these layers together, we keep returning to the core ethos of the source material: authentic documentary style, ultra-realistic. Every single choice we've analyzed today, from that 16:9 aspect ratio to the softly blurred monitors, right down to the arms crossed posture and the Montserrat Extra Bold font, it all serves this one single master goal. The aim is to create visual media that feels undeniably real and instantly authoritative.
So, we've seen how meticulously a professional image is constructed layer by layer. Now, ask yourself, does your own visual branding project this same confident, arms-crossed, professional authenticity? Or are you just settling for generic stock imagery? Think about how you can apply these cinematic blueprints to your own work. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer,